In November 2002, an 18-year-old Columbia University freshman filed a $6 billion lawsuit against her own father. Her name was Liesl Pritzker. What happened next exposed one of America's greatest fortunes and revealed how a family's attempt to preserve wealth across generations through elaborate trust structures became the very instrument of their destruction. The story begins in 1881, when a 10-year-old boy named Nicholas Jacob Pritzker fled Jewish persecution in Kiev, Ukraine, and arrived in Chicago with nothing. His first night in the city, he slept in the train station. Working as a newspaper boy selling the Chicago Tribune, he taught himself English by sounding out headlines and stock prices in the freezing dawn hours. He rose from newsboy to pharmacist to lawyer, eventually founding Pritzker and Pritzker Law Firm in 1902. The irony would prove inescapable. The same Chicago Tribune that taught Nicholas English would, 120 years later, chronicle the spectacular collapse of the dynasty he founded. Nicholas had 3 sons, Harry, Abram Nicholas, A.N., and Jack, all of whom earned law degrees and joined the family firm. It was A.N. who became the architect of the Pritzker fortune. During the Great Depression, when Chicago's real estate market collapsed, A.N. and Jack moved in where institutional capital retreated, buying properties at severe discounts and holding them as the economy recovered. This philosophy of patient opportunism would define the Pritzker approach for the next 70 years. A.N. wrote in a book passed down through the family, "Your only immortality is the impact you have on your successors." He took this principle seriously by placing family assets into an increasingly complex network of trusts. By the 1950s, there were hundreds of interlocking trusts. By 2002, there would be 950 separate entities, holding everything from operating businesses to cash to real estate. These trusts extended into offshore jurisdictions like the Cayman Islands and the Bahamas, creating a financial architecture so intricate that even the family's own lawyers struggled to map it. J. Pritzker, born on August 26, 1922, became the greatest dealmaker of his generation. After serving as a naval aviator in World War II and earning a law degree from Northwestern, he returned to Chicago and began transforming family holdings into something unprecedented. On September 27, 1957, Jay sat at the breakfast counter of a motel near Los Angeles International Airport. The cook cracked 4 eggs in a row without breaking a single yolk. The precision made an impression. Within hours, Jay was negotiating with the motel's owner, Hyatt Von Den. He paid $2.2 million for what would become the Hyatt House, reportedly writing the offer on a napkin. From this single transaction, the Hyatt Hotels Corporation was born. His younger brother Robert built the Marmon Group, a manufacturing conglomerate that by 2001 comprised more than 125 separate companies generating between $6.50 and $7 billion in annual revenue. Together, the brothers assembled an empire that included TransUnion, one of the country's 3 major credit reporting bureaus, Ticketmaster, Braniff Airlines, Royal Caribbean Cruises, and dozens of other operating companies. Yet Jay remained deliberately invisible to the public. He drove a Ford Taurus, flew coach on commercial airlines despite owning a Falcon 900 jet, and refused bodyguards. In a 1988 Fortune magazine interview, he articulated his philosophy: if we are going to have a problem, it's probably going to be a ne'er-do-well. No one in the family has a right to anything until he has made a contribution doing something and doing it well. In June 1995, Jay called the family together at his Lake Shore Drive apartment in Chicago. He was 72 years old and battling heart disease. He and his brother Robert distributed a 2-page typewritten letter to the family. It began, "We are writing to clarify some of the confusion that may exist about family wealth and the family trusts." The letter made explicit that the trusts were designed to accumulate wealth for business investment and philanthropic donations, not to create individual billionaires. "We earnestly hope that providing this money from the trusts will not destroy the family ethic," Jay wrote, "and it is our belief that in some circumstances making excessive amounts available could have that effect." Jay designated a triumvirate to lead the family: his eldest son Tom Pritzker, a Buddhist scholar and Tibetan art expert, Penny Pritzker, Donald's daughter and the first female executive in the family business, and Nicholas Pritzker, his cousin. The family would receive increasing stipends starting at $100,000 annually and climbing to $1 million by age 40. By age 45, each cousin would receive approximately $25 million in lump sum payments. No one objected. The meeting seemed successful. Yet the seeds of destruction had already been planted. Nancy Pritzker, Jay's eldest child, had taken her own life in 1972 at age 24, leaving behind a copy of The Best and the Brightest. The tragedy transformed Jay. Friends noted that after Nancy's death, all the love was transferred to Tommy. Jay became obsessed with succession and controlling every aspect of his children's lives. His younger sons Danny and John, who wanted to pursue music and entrepreneurship respectively, faced his sharp criticism. When speaking to business partners about John's ventures in San Francisco, Jay said bluntly, "There is a reason John isn't with us in Chicago. It's a matter of competency." More destructively, Robert Pritzker's second marriage to Australian woman Irene Dryburgh, whom he had met at a Hyatt hotel in Australia in 1980, became increasingly bitter. When they divorced in 1989 after 9 years of marriage, they fought viciously over their 2 young children, Liesl and Matthew. Robert was furious when he read in newspapers that his daughter was starring in the 1995 film, A Little Princess, without his consultation. He fought over the children's very names, refusing to allow them to use their mother's surname. Liesl adopted the stage name Liesl Matthews as tribute to her brother Matthew, a child caught in adult warfare, choosing as her public identity the one relationship she held most dear. Then, in October 1994, Tom Pritzker and family attorney Marshall Eisenberg, who had been trustees of Liesl and Matthews trusts, resigned. Robert Pritzker became sole trustee. What followed was systematic. Robert donated Liesl and Matthews' shares in H Group Holding, the parent company of Hyatt, to the Pritzker Foundation. The shares were valued at approximately $143,000 per child. Shortly after the donation, H Group bought the shares from the foundation for $94.2 million, a 600-fold increase in valuation. Liesl's attorneys later argued the shares could be worth $500 million today. Simultaneously, Robert sold other trust assets to cousins' trusts at prices substantially below fair market value, structured so that 5% was paid in cash upfront with 95% payable over 25 years at negligible interest rates, functionally indistinguishable from gifts. All of this occurred while the trust's architecture remained so complex that no single document could map it. The 950 trust network protected the scheme through sheer opacity. The family believed the looting would never be uncovered. But Jay died on January 23, 1999, and without his moral authority, the centrifugal forces he had suppressed erupted immediately. In 2001, the remaining 11 adult cousins signed a secret family settlement agreement, FSA, agreeing to liquidate the $15 billion empire over 10 years and divide assets equally among themselves, approximately $1.3 billion per cousin. They also received $30 million in cash. But Liesl and Matthew were explicitly excluded, left with depleted trusts and no share of the distribution. Matthew overheard cousins discussing how he and his sister would be shortchanged. Liesl pieced together what had happened to her trust funds through family conversations and legal documents she accessed as an adult. In fall 2002, Liesl had dinner with her cousin Tom Pritzker, chairman of Hyatt Hotels and the most powerful member of the triumvirate. In her later legal deposition, Liesl's characterization of that meeting became famous. He said some things. She filed suit. On November 13, 2002, 18-year-old Liesl Pritzker filed a $6 billion lawsuit against her father Robert, her cousin Tom, and other family members. She was a Columbia University freshman, living in a dorm, wearing fleece to class, and watching her spending on Broadway tickets. To Forbes, she said, "This is not about cash. It's not like I think if we win it will be by the Bentley bling bling. I filed because I wanted to know what happened. It is going to be tricky, and it will take a long time, but I just need to know what happened." Her brother Matthew filed separately in April 2003. The family's lawyers moved to seal the case file entirely, citing commercial sensitivity and personal safety concerns. But the Chicago Tribune challenged the ceiling. The same newspaper that had taught Nicholas Pritzker English 120 years earlier now demanded accountability. In late 2004, the Illinois 1st District Appellate Court ruled that public interest outweighed family secrecy. The partial unsealing exposed the 950 trust architecture, the FSA with its $1.30 billion per year structure, and the fact that 6 cousins had been preparing their own lawsuits before Liesl filed. Judge Patrick McGann, on March 5, 2004, issued a 100-page memorandum opinion that demolished the family's strongest legal arguments. He asked pointedly, why, more than 30 years after the PG trusts were created, does Robert Pritzker have an interest in becoming a co-trustee? Settlement pressure became irresistible as depositions loomed and complete discovery threatened total exposure. On January 6, 2005, the case settled. Liesl and Matthew each received $280 to $300 million in cash, plus approximately $170 million in trust assets, totaling roughly $450 to $500 million per sibling. At ages 20 and 22, they became among the wealthiest young people in America, though they received only about 1/3 of what each cousin received. Robert issued a statement, "I love them dearly, and it is unfortunate they feel wronged. I did not personally gain from the asset transfers I managed as trustee." He acknowledged the transfers but claimed they were legally authorized. Liesl and Matthew's joint statement was formal and brief. "We are very pleased to have resolved this matter and to bring an end to this litigation. We wish nothing but the best for our cousins and their families." There was no reconciliation with their father, no healing, only legal conclusion. Ironically, the lawsuit that exposed the family's secret plan cleared the way for its completion. By 2011, the dissolution was complete. Robert died in October 2011 at age 85 from Parkinson's disease, never fully explaining his actions. Hyatt Hotels partially went public in 2009. The Marmon Group was sold to Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, ending the manufacturing conglomerate. Northwestern law professor James Lindgren observed, "In trust law even absolute discretion is not usually absolute. It must be exercised in good faith for the benefit of beneficiaries." Yet Liesl Pritzker Simmons refused to follow the family's century-long path of invisibility. She co-founded an investment firm focused on companies serving low-income communities, speaks publicly about wealth and responsibility, and married another heir, Ian Simmons, in a partnership built around shared philanthropy. The woman who once played Sarah Crewe in A Little Princess, a girl stripped of her inheritance, grew up to redefine what it meant to keep one. The Pritzker story is not ultimately about money. It is about what happens when power concentrates absolutely, accountability mechanisms disappear, moral authority becomes personal rather than structural, and a patriarch dies. When the system collapses, it takes the dynasty with it.